Okay, you know that feeling? You get this brilliant idea, this life-changing goal, and you're just buzzing with excitement. But then you tell someone about it. And suddenly all that energy to actually do the work just poof, it's gone. Well, it turns out there's a really powerful and kind of counterintuitive reason for this. Talking about our dreams might actually be the very thing that kills them. So, how does this even happen? Well, here's what we're going to break down. We'll start with what I'm calling the spoken dream paradox. Then we'll dive into a great little story, the parable of Simon, to see it in action. After that, we'll get into the psychology behind it all, why praise can be so tricky. And from there, we'll talk about the power of silence and, most importantly, how you can use it to protect your own dreams. All right, let's kick things off with section 1, the spoken dream paradox. This is all about the curious case of our vanishing motivation. I mean, just think about it for a second. That new gym routine you were so fired up about, the business you were going to launch, that book you were finally going to write, you tell your friends, you feel that rush of excitement, they're all cheering you on, and then crickets. Nothing. If that rings a bell, trust me, you're not alone. And there's a very real reason this happens to so many of us. And this right here is the heart of the whole paradox. See, when we announce our goals, we get praise, right? And that feels good. It gives our brain a nice little hit of dopamine. But here's the problem. It feels too good. So good, in fact, that our brain gets tricked. It confuses the pleasure of being told great idea with the actual satisfaction of making progress. And just like that, the motivation you need for the hard work gets completely drained away. Okay, to really see this whole thing in action, let's look at a powerful little story about a young man named Simon. His life is, well, the perfect example of how speaking your dreams out loud can lead to, silent failure. So Simon, he was a guy who was just overflowing with big, ambitious ideas. I mean, he was always right on the edge of doing something incredible, opening the biggest shop in the village, making amazing pottery, building a new house. The guy had no shortage of dreams. The problem was, he also had this one tiny habit that kept any of them from actually happening. And look, this wasn't just a one-time thing. It was this devastating cycle that just kept repeating. He'd come up with a grand plan, announce it to everyone, and bam, he'd get all this praise from the villagers. He'd feel that rush, that sense of accomplishment. But then the next morning would come and nothing. The drive was just gone. The praise he got felt like the reward, and that feeling of being finished stopped him from ever actually starting. And this cycle, it kept him stuck for years. So why did this keep happening to him? As you can imagine, Simon was pretty ashamed and confused. That is, until a quiet village elder offered him some really profound wisdom. Wisdom that gets right to the heart of the psychology of what's going on here. The elder used the simple but really powerful metaphor of two seeds. He said, think about a seed that's planted in the dark, nurtured quietly, it grows into a strong plant. But then think about another seed, one that's shown off to everyone, praised by all, but just left out on a rock. It just dries up and never grows. And the elder's point was simple. Our dreams are just like those seeds. And here was the elder's big point. He said, when you share your dreams too early, your mind thinks the goal is already achieved. It's like your brain feels that pleasure of accomplishment and just decides, hey, job done. All that energy you actually need to do the thing, it just gets wasted in words. This isn't just a nice story. This is a real recognized psychological concept. It's actually called social reality. Basically, when we tell other people what we're going to do, our brain creates this social reality where the goal feels like it's already done, or at least a lot closer. And that feeling is what completely torpedoes our motivation to actually do the work. So, armed with this incredible new insights, Simon took the elder's advice to heart. He totally abandoned his old ways and decided to try a completely new approach, one based not on talking, but on the power of silence. So he completely changed his strategy. He started small with just one manageable goal, build a simple wooden chair. But here's the crucial part. He told absolutely no one. He just worked on it every evening in a quiet corner. And when he finally finished it, the pride he felt was totally different. It wasn't that cheap, fleeting pride from empty words. It was the real, deep satisfaction of having made something. And then, when a neighbor praised the finished chair, that praise became fuel, not a finish line. It pushed him to build a table, then a shelf, and he eventually became a respected craftsman. All right, so this brings us to the really important part, right? How can we take this lesson from Simon and apply it to our own lives? How do we protect our own dreams and keep them from just vanishing into thin air? Okay, so here's your action plan. First, pick just one goal, focus your energy. Then, and this is key, keep it private, at least in the beginning when your idea is still fragile. Learn to find satisfaction in the process of doing the work, not in the idea of getting praised for it later. And remember this, let your results do the talking. Let your finished work be the announcement. Oh, and if you absolutely have to talk about it, share what you've done, not what you're going to do. Big difference. Really, it all comes down to this. The world doesn't need to know what you're building. It only needs to see what you have built. Your actions, your effort, your finished work, that's what really counts. So nurture your goals in private with focused effort and let them get strong before you show them to the world. So, I'll leave you with this to think about. What's one great thing that you want to build? And what do you think would happen if this time you chose to build it in silence?